fertilizer subsidy, which is
Ballooning.
budgeted at 1.71 lakh crore, is going to go to
2.5?
2.5 definitely. In
Yeah.
fact, we had a roundtable here where the Joint Secretary of Department of Fertilizer said that if we don't get a solution very quickly, it may touch 3 lakh crores.
Is the government bold enough?
Well, not so far. Nowhere in the world, no country in the world can subsidize to the extent that we are doing. 90% subsidy.
Any amount?
40,000 crores, I write it on the wall.
40,000 crores.
40,000 crores a year, they will say. Because
Okay.
then you will plug all the leakages in the system. You remove the distortion in the pricing of fertilizers. It's a major distortion. Nowhere in the world it is like this. Nowhere in the world. We are totally an outlier, totally irrational. To me, it's a disaster if your subsidy bill, which you have budgeted at 1.71 lakh crore, goes to 3 lakh crores. It's all paddy, paddy, paddy. We are buried under paddy. Our economic cost of paddy to FCI is 42 rupees a kg. Now we cannot store it, we are giving it to ethanol plants.
Right.
Nowhere in the world rice is being used for ethanol plant. At what price we are giving to them? 22 rupees, 23 rupees a kg.
India's agriculture sector is entering one of its most consequential seasons. The monsoon outlook remains weak, concerns are rising around El Niño, and worries over rising agri input costs are becoming increasingly pressing. Well, at the center of the debate at this time is one critical question: can India contribute and continue to rely on a fertilizer model that is becoming more expensive, more import dependent, and of course, highly challenged by geopolitical realities? To help us unpack these issues, we are joined by one of India's leading agriculture economists, Dr. Ashok Gulati.
Thank you.
He is currently a distinguished professor for agriculture at the Indian Council of Research on International Economic Relations. Dr. Gulati in the past has served as a member of Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government. Dr. Gulati is a former chairman of Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices, and he has been associated with many committees and task force on agriculture and market reforms. Dr. Gulati, thanks for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Gulati, let me begin with a big picture, sir. How big of a concern do you think El Nino is for India's agriculture sector at the moment?
Well, IMD has already forecast that it's 80% probability that the rainfall this year will be about 90% of the long period average. If it is 89%, then we call it a drought. So 90% or 91% or 89%, the chances are that agriculture is going to suffer. So it's more or less a drought situation. When that happens, 2-3 things happen. One, the production drops. Second, the income of the farmer drops, which has a spillover effect on the demand side. Third thing is that the prices of food crops start rising, especially which are in those regions which are less irrigated areas. So I would expect the pulses prices, the oilseed prices, the cotton prices to go up. There will be a shortfall of those. Some of the areas which are fully irrigated like Punjab, Haryana and paddy growing, they will dig deeper into the reservoirs and they can still maintain their production. But overall the economy will suffer, given that about 17%, 18% of the overall GDP is coming from agriculture, and almost 43-44% of the workforce is engaged in agriculture. That's going to be a challenging year.
Dr. Gulati, just coming to the overall economy before I get into the fertilizer thing, do you think India is facing a crisis of some kind?
Well, the crisis has been outlined even by the Honorable Finance Minister. She herself said that there are 3 F challenges. The fuel is a challenge. Everybody knows fuel prices have gone up by 70%, 80%. We have done some, 7 rupees per liter adjustment in our prices, but that's not a full pass-through. Opposition parties will always say, oh, you were saving a lot in the past when the prices were low and you were charging higher prices. They have a point to an extent. But 2 months already the relief was given and the prices were high. 88%, 90% we are importing. So if our domestic prices are way below than the import parity price, then you are going to create a lot of deficit in the system. So fuel, some adjustment, but fertilizer, people are not talking about. Fertilizer sector overall, we worked out on 25, 26, if you take care of what you are importing, urea or phosphate or potash, and the feedstocks, which is the gas, because even in the domestic production of urea, 85% of the gas is imported. And all those prices have shot up. The latest is Government of India invited tenders for 2.5 million tons of imports of urea. The minimum price quoted was $935 a ton on the West Coast. And we are selling to our farmers at less than $70 a ton.
Yeah.
And this urea price for farmers has remained flat.
The underpricing of LPG, LNG and fertilizer can likely widen the fiscal deficit beyond 5% of GDP. And you also argued that falling rupee is a big problem for the country.
Yes.
And you also argued that the economy seems to be on the brink of a financial crisis. That's a major crisis that you said. And the only way to avoid this is to carry out some major reforms for the economy, similar to those in the year 1991. So can you just educate us, what exactly does it mean for the entire economies?
As Honorable Finance Minister said, fuel, fertilizer and foreign exchange.
Foreign exchange.
Foreign exchange, because your rupee is depreciating, and if you allow it to fall without the RBI intervention at present, rupee is going to hit the century mark, 100 rupees to a US dollar. Now, that is a psychological barrier, but the market will find its place because you are having a trade deficit because of these high imports, and earlier it was the capital inflows which used to counter the deficit in the trade. But now FPIs, foreign portfolio investors, are taking away their money and they are going to better, more greener pastures. So you are having a shortage on the capital account and you are having a big deficit on the trade account. And if you don't do the structural reforms at home, then you are going to blow up the fiscal deficit in the country. Now, our target was 4.3% of GDP. Impossible to keep that unless you cut down drastically your developmental expenditures and other expenditures. So my fear is, if you don't do any structural reforms at home, then fiscal deficit is going to go out of hand in the reverse gear. You are bringing it down. So this would be like a COVID year and it can touch 5% or even.
RBI has announced a slew of measures when it comes to stop the FII outflow, like you mentioned. Do you think the kind of measures that were announced by the RBI governor, at least the government is acknowledging there is a problem somewhere?
Any person who has been reading the economy, and RBI governor is one of the most important person to keep the financial system under control. He knows what economy is facing. They may not say everything in public because they don't want to create a sort of a panic in the system, which we fully understand. But I think they are very much aware of the challenges. Whether the crisis is medium, big, how far, it all also depends upon how far this Strait of Hormuz remains like this. And if there is no solution for another 3 months, India had a big time tough time. So the slew of measures, the recognition is there. Finance Minister herself said, RBI Governor saying, the RBI report is saying that some measures have started, but they are still baby steps. I would not say that these steps can solve the full problem. No, I think we need to take some
Big steps.
bold
Big
steps. Fertilizer, nothing has changed. Tell me
Nothing
what
has changed. So,
and fertilizer subsidy, which is
Ballooning.
budgeted at 1.71 lakh crore, is going to go to
2.5?
2.5 definitely. In
Even-
fact, we had a round table here where the Joint Secretary of Department of Fertilizer said that if we don't get a solution very quickly, it may touch 3 lakh crores.
3 lakh
3 lakh
crores
crores
is what he
compared
mentioned.
to a budgeted one of 1.7 lakh crores. This is the figure given by the Joint Secretary Department of Fertilizers.
If I ask you, is this financial crisis that we are talking about in this room, is it unmanageable in that sense?
No, everything is manageable. When the difficulty arises, you have to do some operation. If you are having a disease or sudden, accident or something, then you have to be bold enough to carry out the operation.
Is the government bold enough?
Well, not so far.
Not so far.
Not so far. They have remained, the fertilizer pricing is same more or less. Urea prices is same, even raise or change. I'm not saying you abolish the fertilizer subsidy, but you can do a lot of saving. Can you do some quantitative restrictions that every state will get 15% less fertilizer this year and try to manage that so that farmers should be asked to use it more cautiously? Can we reduce the quantity if you can't raise the price?
You're talking about the rationing of the fertilizers. Okay, that's one thing. But what are the other kind of reforms that you've been talking about? What exactly are these reforms?
Well, the Brahmastra, what I call the biggest reform is decontrol the fertilizer sector. That is, let the market decide the prices of N, P and K and compensate the farmers directly. Let's say 2 lakh crores is the fertilizer subsidy. And that should be given directly to the farmers' accounts on per acre basis and the crops they are growing. So farmers are reasonably protected, right? It is switching from price subsidization to income subsidization. And then when you liberate the prices, the relative prices of urea versus DAP versus MOP, they will get in more balance, because at present our urea prices are too low and our DAP and MOP prices are very high. The net result is farmer is overusing the urea. Plant does not consume more than 35 to 40% of nitrogen. Rest is going in the environment as nitrous oxide, which is 273 times the carbon dioxide. So you are subsidizing to create poison in the system. So you need to stop that. And then there is a lot of diversion of this urea to non-agricultural uses. Plywood industry, glass industry.
When I cut you short earlier, you were talking about the urea prices have almost remained static for the last
15 years.
15 years.
Yes. 15 years.
Does that mean somewhere that India's current fertilizer subsidy model has become fiscally and economically unsustainable, if I put it that way?
Yes, it is unsustainable. It's blowing up your budget deficit.
What is happening in other parts of the world, sir, if we compare?
Nowhere in the world, no country in the world can subsidize to the extent that we are doing. 90% subsidy.
Maybe because
plus subsidy on urea.
So many small scale farmers, almost 90% of them are dependent on the fertilizers. Particularly the awareness is low.
Fertilizer
That's the argument
is being used all over the world. Right? China's farmers are even smaller than ours.
But they produce most of the urea, sir, I guess.
No, but gas is being imported.
Gas is being imported.
Okay. So they do even from coal gasification.
We have also started.
Now we should start.
Are we late?
We had earlier coal plants where the costs were very high. They were closed down. We were getting cheap gas from the Gulf countries, and we changed everything.
Before I ask you about more about the fertilizers, why are we so late always? For example, if you talk about coal gasification, of course, the government has come up with a new plan. Why is that only when this kind of crisis is striking the country that we come up with new ideas, or whenever we are pushed against the wall, our country finds ways to fight the problem?
I think by nature or by Indian politics, because it is a very competitive populist politics in a democratic system, they don't think 10 years ahead, which China is thinking, not 10 years, 20 years ahead. We are thinking next election, 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, that is what it is. And that has led to a situation we don't want to reform, let the system go on and keep on distributing freebies. Fertilizer. So they are afraid of farmers will... You communicate with the farmer, we are giving you directly in your account, but then try to use, this is costing 100 rupees and you are giving to the farmers at 10 rupees. There is all the chances of misuse and diversion.
What kind of diversion, sir?
All sorts of diversion to non-agricultural uses. Urea is being used in the plywood industry, glass industry, even sometimes you find milk being made out of urea. And then, of course, it is going to the bordering countries. Because there is all the arbitrage you have created by pricing it so low. Whenever a commodity is priced so low or given free, there is no value to that. So the only way out is directly give an income subsidy support to the beneficiary and free up the prices. Decontrol the sector. We did that in cement. When we were controlling cement, there was always black markets.
Right.
When we were controlling the exchange rate, there was always black market of exchange rate. 91 reforms did not happen because Congress wanted to do it. It is because there was no foreign exchange left in the kitty, literally $1.4 billion. And then the reforms took place. At that time, they changed the fertilizer prices in one go by 40% first. There was opposition within the Congress party against Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was the finance minister. And then he said, I can't reform the economy if you don't allow me to do this. So finally, they agreed to increase the urea price by 30% in 91. And then they set up a committee, Joint Parliamentary Committee and so on and so forth in 92. They liberated P and K, but relatively, but urea was still under tight control. So there is a lot of politics in that, in the urea system. But ultimately, if they think wisely and if they care about the farmers and the agriculture of the country, then they must decontrol it and compensate the farmers through direct income support. If they don't do it, this problem will continue.
You advocate direct benefit transfer.
Direct benefit transfer.
But in some of the states, Dr. Gulati, like in Madhya Pradesh, what we have seen, e-Vikas is a model that they have come up with. And of course, it includes all the agri-stack and other models that help the government knowing what are the cropping patterns, what are the different kind of land holdings that farmer has, and what kind of fertilizer he or she is using. Based on that, a limit is advocated, and he can go to the retailer and buy the fertilizer of his choice. Do you think these kind of models are in the right direction?
It should have been done 10 years back, but okay, they have started off. Can you link the holding size and the crop that he is growing with the recommended doses by the State Agriculture University, that you have 2 acres of land,
ICR.
you are growing wheat and the recommended dose for wheat is this by the Agriculture University. You will not bet more than this. Can you do that?
No,
if you can do that,
they can.
You are doing basically quantity restriction.
Yeah, I was coming to that. But what they say is they are not doing that. They're providing them as much as they want. They can come again for the fertilizer of their choice.
As I want, then where is the improvement?
That is what I'm asking, sir. It's not even rationing of the fertilizer.
If I can get as much as I want at 10 rupees instead of 100 rupees, I'm going to misuse.
That means a much better platform in development for misusing the fertilizer.
So we are way away from that, and that's the problem.
Okay.
So this system will not improve unless you are able to bite the bullet. You link it with his soil health card, you link it with his area, you link it with his crop and the recommended doses by that state's agriculture university. And he should not get anything more than that.
Tomorrow the government accepts what you are advocating, DBT. How much do you think that the government can save through DBT? Any amount?
40,000 crores, I write it on the wall.
40,000 crores?
40,000 crores a year they will save. Because then you will plug all the leakages in the system, because then there is no incentive for other industries to use urea. And there is no incentive to take it outside the Indian borders. Okay, so all those leakages will stop or minimum. And then when the prices of NPK are decided by the market, then the farmer will start using NPK in a better balanced. At present, the biggest problem is he is using these macronutrients in a very imbalanced fashion, which is actually damaging your soil, which is damaging your water.
So is natural farming possible in India?
Everything is possible, but it cannot replace chemical fertilizers.
It cannot replace.
It can't, because the productivity loss is there. Those who say
the government
there
says
is
that
no
we are
productivity
focusing more on.
loss, go to ICR's institute in Modipuram and they did on wheat and rice for 2 years natural farming. The productivity loss was 29% and 50%. You can't afford that. But there are many other horticulture crops in which you can do natural farming and still get reasonably good productivity.
That means natural farming is not possible under the current agriculture.
It cannot replace.
It cannot replace.
But at margin, at the, like organic farming, if you and me are ready to pay a much higher premium for the organic product, farmer should be free to adopt anything that you should give him the same incentive what you are giving for chemical fertilizer.
Okay.
So if on per acre basis, I as a chemical fertilizer user, farmer, can get, let's say, 2,000 rupees per acre or whatever, then the natural farming farmer also should get the same incentive. Let them do that. Leave it to the farmer whether he wants to do organic farming, natural farming or chemical farming. You remove the distortion in the pricing of fertilizers. It's a major distortion. Nowhere in the world it is like this. Nowhere in the world. And the soil is getting damaged, the water is getting damaged, the air is getting polluted with nitrous oxide.
Okay. Dr. Gulati, why has India not treated fertilizer security with the same strategic urgency as energy security?
Well, I would say, because overall we are hugely dependent for imports for our fuel security as well as fertilizer security. We talk of supply security. We don't talk of efficient use of that. And it's a classic case of, I would say, misuse, totally inefficient use of urea. You don't need, the Minister of Fertilizers, Mr. J.P. Nadda, said this in the parliament that we know farmer needs only 2 bags, but he's taking 4 bags.
Then what is
so why don't you stop him?
Yeah, that is what.
Exactly. So that's where either you increase the price so that he cannot use 4.
Okay.
Or you put a quantity restriction. So sermons and lectures and all these advisories don't work. This is not a substitute of the structural reform. Structural reforms you have to carry out. Pricing reform is part of the structural reform. Changing from price subsidization to income policy is a structural reform.
Dr. Gulati, have we missed the bus in case of fertilizers?
Well, it's never too late to reform. Yes, we should have done this maybe in 91. And Dr. Manmohan Singh tried to do it. But then on urea, after increasing by 30% in one go, 91. Then he set up a committee, joint parliament, because Congress from within was opposing him.
Okay.
Because he was not a politician.
Yeah.
He was an economic manager, literally. And the net result was, again, the Joint Parliamentary Committee that gave its report in 92. They liberated P and K relatively, but not urea. So what were the pressures on them on urea? Only the government knows. But if they had done the decontrol at that time, but also compensate the farmers through direct income support, this is how you have to sell reforms. To me, it's a disaster if your subsidy bill, which you have budgeted at 1.71 lakh crore, goes to 3 lakh crores. It's a disaster. And then farmers are not using it properly.
Do you think speciality fertilizers can be a solution?
Speciality fertilizers are the most appropriate one. Soluble fertilizer.
Exactly.
Now, urea, granular urea,
Right.
is being subsidized by 90%. Soluble urea,
It's not.
where the nutrient use efficiency through fertigation goes to 90%. But nutrient use efficiency of granular urea is maximum 40%, 35 to 40%. So you can actually half the fertilizer subsidy if you put priority on soluble fertilizer through fertigation. And then you will not damage your soils, you will not damage the environment, but which were being sold in the urea shops. In UP, they said, no, you can't sell it.
You can't. And that's a big
It's
blow.
a regressive step.
That's a big blow to specialty fertilizer segment.
It's
and
a regressive step. What are you doing?
I want to highlight towards India's agricultural policy that seems increasingly contradictory. Why I say so is because we are importing record quantities of pulses, we are exporting record quantities of rice, and we are also importing urea at $1,000 a ton. When we are importing pulses at a record quantity, some of the experts, what they say is pulses, if we had grown in that particular area, would have helped in catching the nitrogen and providing it to the soil, doing what essentially urea and other fertilizers do.
There are two things which are making Indian farmers choose paddy over pulses. One is free electricity, because paddy in state like Punjab and Haryana requires anywhere from 20 to 25 irrigation from it is all groundwater, and that is power consumption. And then second is massive consumption of fertilizers, almost 250 kilograms per hectare they are using. So we worked it out in our research that on per hectare, how much is the subsidy that the paddy farmer is getting in Punjab and Haryana? It is almost 40,000 rupees per hectare from power subsidy and fertilizer subsidy. Now, if you give the same 40,000 rupees to a pulses grower, because pulses would not need that much water, they will work with 2 irrigations, 3 irrigations, so all your power subsidy is saved. They are nitrogen fixing, they don't need that fertilizer. So if you say, okay, I'm ready to give anybody switching from paddy to pulses 35,000 or 40,000 rupees per hectare for the next 5 years, because your savings are permanent. The thing is, power subsidy is under the state and fertilizer subsidy is under the center. Therefore, a package has to be devised by the state and the center together on a 50-50 basis, because the state will be saving its power subsidy and the center will be saving its. So this pulses mission, you correct your incentive structure, within 3 years you will see the results.
And what about the oilseeds mission?
Same thing. Oilseeds are also nitrogen fixing. They are legumes. And they don't need this 250 kilograms of fertilizers. So you have become importer. You are the largest importer of edible oil in the world today. You are the largest importer of pulses in the world today. So what you are doing, you are exporting your water.
Exactly.
25-26 we have exported 21.5 million tons of rice. That is almost exporting 42 billion cubic meters of water. In a country which is facing El Nino, you are exporting water, and you have, you know how much buffer stock you have of rice? 5 times than the buffer stock now. So you are hugely overproducing. We need to reduce the paddy area by at least 5 million hectares and switch that to pulses and oilseeds by increasing the incentives for those. I'm saying this is creating crop neutral incentive structure, because at present your incentives are hugely skewed towards water intensive and fertilizer intensive crops through power subsidy and fertilizer subsidy. You know how much it costs to supply power? CAG report has come out lately. Average cost of supply of power is 8 rupees per kilowatt hour. Okay, in the rural areas it is 9 to 10 rupees per kilowatt hour, and they are all getting free, unlimited. So if you have this type of incentive structure, what will happen? Those crops which are hugely water guzzlers and power consuming, and fertilizer consumption of 250 kilograms in Punjab and Haryana, you are getting the results everybody wants. And then in some states you are giving a bonus of 1,000 rupees of paddy. Chhattisgarh and Odisha and whatnot. Madhya Pradesh. So all paddy. We are buried under paddy. Our economic cost of paddy to FCI is 42 rupees a kg. Now we cannot store it, we are giving it to ethanol plants.
Right.
Nowhere in the world rice is being used for ethanol plant. At what price we are giving to them? 22 rupees, 23 rupees a kg. 42 rupees your economic cost, and you are giving them at 22 rupees, 23 rupees. It's my tax money. Massive inefficiency in the government system. Food management.
They say that ethanol will help us cut our crude import bills that way.
Do it with maize.
They're
Don't
doing
do
it
it with rice. Maize needs 4 or 5 irrigations maximum. You are using first all the pumping and all the energy to give 25 irrigations, then you overproduce, and then you put it in ethanol.
Last one, Dr. Gulati, have we managed to double farmers' income in the past 10 or 15 years?
Nominal incomes, perhaps yes.
Okay.
But when Prime Minister gave a clarion call in 2016, 28th of February, he said it's my dream to double farmers' incomes by 22-23. And I wrote an op-ed at that time, are you talking of nominal incomes or real incomes? Then in April 2016, he set up a committee under Ashok Gulati. They have given reports, 14 volumes of reports and more than 3,000 pages and so on and so forth. They said very clearly, we are talking of real incomes, not nominal incomes. And for that to achieve, agriculture GDP needs to grow at 10.4% per annum from 2016 to 22-23. If you look at the record, it has grown the total Modi period from 14-15 to 25-26, agri GDP has grown at 3.9% per annum. But if you don't count the first 2 years, which were drought years, and count the in-between, you can get anywhere between 4 to 4.5%. You wanted 10.4% increase in agri GDP to achieve doubling of farmers' income. So in real terms, the achievement is less than half. But in nominal terms, when you include inflation, then you can say, but that would have happened in any case. So it's inflation effect rather than any strategy that
would have taken place. Well, Dr. Gulati, that was all from my side. It was nice having you on the show and sharing, and you shared all the insights on this very complex topic of fertilizer and fertilizer distribution. Also, you shared other insights on how the agriculture policy needs to be reframed or recorrected in some ways, and how we need to reduce our dependence on wheat and rice and focus more on crops such as pulses and, of course, oilseeds. That is all from my side, sir. Thank you very much for being on the show.